our guest, Brian Thomas, is in the triathlon, I don't want to say the triathlon business, but you like to compete and do stuff like that. Have those been shut down?
Most of them have. A lot of them, it's just too difficult to find a new venue, especially the ones that were affected by the fire. And fortunately, we do have a very exciting weekend of multi-sport racing coming in this weekend and even next weekend.
So they found a way to, structure it so it's safe and...
Absolutely. We do social distancing, and fortunately we have the type of timing now. There's electronic chip timing where you have chip timer on your ankle, and we do a staggered start. So everyone does their 6 feet apart, and from there the computer just does its magic. And when you come in, now it's not like in the old days when we used to do a mass start. After that, they stopped that because it got a little crazy in some of the swims, but they would do age group waves. So this is kind of the next step from there.
Well, let's go back for a second. Tell me about a triathlon for those of us that don't know. It's running, I know that.
Right. Your standard format for most triathlons is a swim, bike, and then run. And you have usually a sprint version, and you have your Olympic version, and then your half Ironman and Ironman. And for your beginners, a sprint is a nice one to start out with. You might swim a couple 100 yards and then bike for maybe 10, 15 miles and then maybe run 2 to 3 miles.
Yeah, forgive me that I know nothing about this, but you swim and you're all wet.
Correct.
And then you come out of the water.
Right, and then you put on your cycling gear or your tri-suit, depending on how cold or warm it is.
Now, is that part of the race? You want to do that fast? Or?
You do. Believe it or not, triathlons are often won with the pros in a few seconds or maybe 20, 30 seconds.
So one little misstep in switching gear.
If you have a bad or slow transition, it could mean a lot if you're a pro for a lot of money. And if you're, in the amateurs like myself, and if you have a bad transition, you could miss out on some nice prize money. And I did, or not even prize money, but like the prize you can get could be a gift certificate and things like that. And the last race I was at, I was fortunate enough to get some of that.
So you start with a swim, and then usually it goes to a bike. Or is it always a swim, then bike, then run?
It's mostly that format, and I'll tell you why. Imagine being in a Ironman event where the swim is 2.4, and you got done doing a 100-plus mile bike, and then a 26-mile run. They'd be picking a lot of people out of that ocean in that 2+ mile swim. So that most of the time, but there are some unique, non-traditional events out there. You have to find them, but they're out there. There's a term called a UCR. It's a term you'll probably only hear on this channel. It's a term that has not been used in a long time. It's called underground cult race. So
underground cult race.
Underground cult race, and those are for the hardcore triathletes. And there's usually little to no rules, and the people that just enjoy the dynamic of racing go out there and do it. And there's no awards, and they may make up things along the way. So, but it's still part of the magic.
Now, I'm fascinated by this thing. I hope I'm not so out of it that I should have already known. But the chip start, they can track them.
Yeah, that actually started. I remember it in the late 90s, early 2000s in marathons, and the reason why I remember it so well is they wanted you to wear it on your ankle, and I didn't want to wear it on my ankle, and I wore it on my wrist like a wristwatch. And unfortunately, that year I didn't get my time because back then the chips with the RFID weren't that strong. And so I learned a very important lesson. So if they say put it on your ankle, put it on your ankle. And now they'll even incorporate them in your bib, your running number bib. They've become a lot more sophisticated.
They get a really sophisticated, accurate number then.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's incredible now. I don't think this could have taken place in the 70s or 80s. In the 90s, I think it was a very expensive system. You didn't see them until the late 90s. 2000s, it became very popular. And the computer just does the magic. You get all your splits, all your transitions, so if you had a bad transition, and if you had a bad split in another segment.
Yeah. Now, this chip start or the chip really must lend itself to the COVID, so you could really spread people out.
Yeah, like I said before, they usually used to do it in waves, based on age group. Sometimes after you had a big race, they let all the pros go together in a semi-mass start. And now in something like Ironman, they've even separated between the men and the women, just because when you have 2,000 people leaving at the same time, in the early days, I've been doing this since '86, and the mass start was just, okay, there's water spray everywhere and people swimming on top of you and getting kicked in the face and
Yeah.
hit in the head with arms. It's much safer doing it in age groups. And now I do like that better. The format now is a bit more of a time trial, so you may not necessarily be next to your competition. There may be sometimes some people slower in front of you or even faster. So, you may not think you're having a great race, but you could actually be having a great race.
Now, and they're going to do some of these around here.
Right. This is a great week.
People always say there's nothing to do in Fresno. Here's something right here in the valley.
Absolutely.
And anybody can compete, right? There's no qualifying.
Right. You don't have to be a professional, but I'm going to put up the asterisk here and the disclaimer. Because of the social distancing that's going on to the health challenges, there are limited number of spots. Mm-hmm. So as we speak, as we broadcast, as you may hear this, maybe some of these races are sold out because of what's going on. So you will find that in the bigger races anyway, but there's less capacity due to what's going on. So this weekend, there's 2 races. The first one is put on by Big Boys Multisport, and that's bigboysmultisport.com. And that's boys with a Z, so make sure you spell that correctly. And this race was rescheduled because there was air quality issues from a couple weeks ago. So that will be the Wonder Valley Madness, and that's taking place this Saturday, October 10th. And then the next day, believe it or not, there's a Rocky Hill, which I just found out about. So it's going to be a great race. If you feel like racing back-to-back, perfect opportunity. You can stay there at the resort, and if not, you could, maybe plan for one next year if they do that there. With that being said, with the social distancing rules, keep in mind that family and friends are not allowed to be spectators unless you're helping out to being an official part of the race.
Be a volunteer or something.
Yeah, volunteers. And again, there's a limited number of volunteers too. So family and friends, unfortunately, you'll have to kind of sit back and cheer remotely.
So now that's great that they're right here. They're right in our area.
Right, and the next one taking place in about a little over a week is Shaver Lake, and that unfortunately got hit by the fire. And I did the Huntington Lake one up there, and shortly after that fire happened, and it's probably going to take a while for that area to be back to normal. So, and I just checked the website today, so the one that was taking place at Shaver Lake has been changed. The venue is going to take place at Lake Evans, and that's southwest of Bakersfield, and that will be Sunday, October 18th.
Who's sponsoring that?
Now, that one is by Sierra Cascades, and both of these organizations are great. They put on high-quality races. Some people may get a little itchy thinking that the Central Valley isn't big enough for 2 venues to host races, and both of these races going on and what they put on in the past prove that they can, and it's great that they do. Anytime you have a race, you're going to run into challenges, especially in these healthy, challenging times. So be patient, expect some. And the thing I like about both of them, if you run into some challenges, they always do their best to improve. And I've been a race director before, not in a triathlon, but road races, and it's difficult. You're probably going to miss a little something. And if they do, just let them know in a constructive way how to make the race a little better, and they will.
Now, can these races be used to qualify for something bigger?
None of these are. If you're looking for something for Ironman, remember an Ironman is a specific race, and there are specific qualifiers, and you do have to pay for them. You should have certain memberships to be part of this organization. It's essentially like a Tri-Fed insurance. You have to purchase. You get a one-day membership or a year. Recently, I bought my year membership just because I'd be racing a little bit more, and you have to make sure you adhere to their rules, and their course has to be sanctioned and so forth. And again, these are non-Ironman distances. They are non-qualifiers. These are, and we do have multiple. Don't think you have to be a pro or a seasoned triathlete to jump in these. Just until recently, I got a newer triathlon time trial bike, and I did these races on an older road bike. Then I put some aero bars on there, and I won the duathlon division.
Wow.
So, you don't, I've seen people on mountain bikes. You can go there and just have some fun and see how you do. You can race against yourself.
Just compete. To compete.
Yeah, and just experience it. Maybe you don't think that you'd be good. You don't have to be fast in all of them. That's the thing about multi-sport, duathlon, and triathlon. It's the person who's the best kind of average between all of them. The person who doesn't slow down a lot. So maybe you're an age group swimmer. and you can get by on the run, you could do okay on the bike. You might be a really great triathlete.
What is the typical body of water that they use for these events? A lake, a swimming pool?
Yeah, in most of them, it's an open water swim, especially in something like a triathlon. Obviously, doing, having 2,000 people in a community pool wouldn't work.
Yeah.
The one this weekend with the Big Boys Multisport Wonder Valley, that is going to be at a lake, and you kind of do an out and back, and for the longer one, you'll do 2 loops. And they did try doing the pool that was there for the last one, and you'll notice they've gone to the lake format this time.
At Wonder Valley?
Yeah, at Wonder Valley.
And that's the Wonder Valley Resort, right?
Right, and that's not too far away. It's not too bad of a drive.
I've sailed in that lake. They have a little sailboat up there. I've sailed around.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location. That was my first time there just a couple weeks ago. And, the Sierra Cascades, the one that was going to be held at Shaver Lake, that's up around 7,000 feet. And
oh, my goodness.
I tell you what, I hadn't been up that high in a while, and it was a little tough. Yeah. And there's a really hilly course, so I don't know all the layout for the one that's going to be held at Lake Evans. That's the one again on Sunday, the 18th. But it's only around 200 plus some feet above sea level, so it'll be a little bit easier. Not easy, but easier than being up at 7,000 feet.
More breathable.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad to hear these things are going on, that they figured out how to make them work in our environment that we have going on these days. And if somebody wants to know more, is there a website or a place they should go to find out?
Yeah, again, I'll give you the websites again. At bigboysmultisport.com. And again, that's boys with a Z. And the other one is sierracascades.com. You can click on, they have several different races. They have triathlons and duathlons. Hopefully this spring, the Spring Fling Duathlon will be back. I've done that for the last several years. Great way to start the season. The triathlon season will be winding down for the most part because pretty soon it'll be too cold to go in lake. And this weekend's going to be cool, and
oh boy.
I think the swim's going to be a little cold for me.
A little chilly. Brian Thomas, I'm glad you came and told us about this. I want the people of the Valley to know there are things going on and things you can do, and they're safe, and they're outdoors, and they're healthy, and I won't be there. If I could go watch, I would, but I don't think they let old people in. Do they have a seniors division?
They have all different age groups.
Oh, maybe there's hope for me there.
I've seen guys in their 70s race, and they're doing well.
And we have the websites right there on the screen. Any last thoughts, Brian?
Last thoughts are, be open to trying triathlon. If you've been kind of sitting on the couch and you want to get in shape, try it out. If you haven't been racing in a while, which a lot of the road races are canceled, that's why I've been doing some more triathlons. I'm really glad that these organizations have put these races on, and they have gone through a lot of extra effort to make sure that they're compliant. And, if they tell you to put a mask on, this is temporary. They have to, because that's the new rule that's in place, and these are the only way that these races are going to happen is if people are compliant and we all kind of do our part. So it's temporary. We'll get through this. We've gone through similar things like this before, and we're all going to be fine. And if we all just have a little open mind, we can still enjoy our multi-sport and bring more positive things to Central Valley.
Very good. Brian Thomas, he is a triathlete, I guess we could say.
Absolutely.
I just want to note, he has 0 fat on his body.
No. In the college days, I was very, very low. I'm a little bit higher than I was in my prime days, but I didn't tell you how old I was, did I?
You look pretty young.
Believe it or not, I'm 50.
Oh, boy.
And a 50-year-old.
Well,
I won the race. I won the duathlon in the last race I did at 50. So if I could do it at 50, guys,
you can do it. Yeah.
You could do it. I try to inspire.
So if you're wondering how to get in shape, wondering how to lose the COVID weight you gained, follow Brian Thomas. I want you to come back after the races, and we could talk about them.
Absolutely.
Bring some pictures and stuff. We will be back with more Central Valley Talk right after this.